across.
Okay, so you mentioned the concept of learning. So I don't see why the concept of learning is problematic from free will, and why that's such a specific point that you mentioned in determinism. So could you clarify that for me? That is, how is it that the process of learning is distinct from having a willing person?
It's commonly believed that our choices are determined by what we know up to that point. Education results in better outcomes because we make better choices.
Okay.
And with absent the education, the choices are worse. With the education, the choices are better. So you have to see that access to knowledge results in better choices. So if the knowledge is required for better choices, then it obviously plays a role in it. And
No, I agree it plays a role. I guess my question is how is that counter to the free will position? That is, if we're talking about learning, how is it not sort of the same thing in both instances? I agree that we need the environment to learn, and that we learn through the process of experience and through having genetic aptitude and those kind of things.
our decisions depend on what we learn, and we don't decide what we learn. And that's my problem, is that we don't consciously choose to learn what we learn. It just happens to us.
So, okay, so you think the phenomenon of lived experience happens to you, that you don't participate in it? That's
I
your distinction?
participate in it, but...
No, I'm saying you as a free person don't participate in it.
I'm saying I didn't create the universe, yes.
That's not what my question is. That would be fallacious. That's a straw man. Okay, regardless of that, let's go on to this point about how you would define the world. So if you define the world as a determinist, when we talk about morality, especially in a normative sense and making the world a better place, we talk about what ought to be as opposed to what is. If you're talking about causality as being the only thing that defines reality, then all you can say is, for example, that murder must happen instead of can or ought to. So what do we do in those situations? If I'm born a particular way, maybe I'm just a murderer.
We learn the circumstances that cause murder. One of those things is actually abuse as a child. When children are severely physically abused, it's shown that there's higher rates of violence in those type of people. So you notice the environmental factors that result in people choosing murder over peaceful resolution, and then you try to eliminate that through education.
So how do you account for those who actually don't end up being in that statistical category? How do you explain the anomalies? Does free will, in other words,
the
explain
anomalies
that?
is lack of understanding of our environment and how we react to it.
30 seconds.
Interesting.
So once we fully understand, then we could fully know what caused what. We don't know everything yet. So.
Okay, and so you would not agree that the will is part of our agency, part of what makes us who we are in a unique sense?
I believe in a will. I think.
No, I'm not saying you don't, but you didn't define it as being an agent or an actor in the world.
I think the will is a causal actor in the world. That is my will.
It's caused.
I mean, it's a causal actor. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's caused by something, and it causes other things.
Gotcha.
So I'm thirsty. I'm gonna pick up this water bottle, but my thirst was caused by chemical reactions in my body.
Sure.
Question.
Does anybody have questions? Okay, you'll be third. You're first, and you're second. Okay. I was just wondering how an individual might be held personally responsible for their actions if free will is not an element in them choosing to act that way.
Like you said, you could be culpable without being morally responsible. Like you could have caused something without being, like say throwing a rock through a window. The rock hits the window and breaks it, but you're the cause of the rock going through the window. So when a person does something, they're doing something bad, but that is then caused by something else. We can reward and punish behavior just on the basis that it will change the behavior in the future. So we invent morality and we decide what's moral, and this is a tool to make things easier and more pleasant for human beings. So responsibility is then something else that we invent and utilize in that manner.
Yeah. So you said the thing about like taking your phone out and breaking it. Do you not have the ability to pick up your phone and throw it?
I say you don't. Can you? Right now?
Do you want?
Yes, I'd like to see you.
Oh, everybody, let's do it.
No, she just didn't broke her phone.
You did?
I was going to say that action to break your phone can only result from hearing my argument, so that's... Why would I do it if I hadn't said that?
Cause and effect.
No, but she physically had the ability.
But it resulted from environmental stimuli. Yes, you do, if there's a desire that's strong enough to overcome the desire of not wanting to break your phone. But that desire is determined
but it
by
was
the
your own free
environment.
will to pick up your phone and throw it.
It
Like
was
nobody
caused-
else did it. Nobody else
it
wanted
was
to.
your will, but it was not free of cause. That is, I caused it by having this argument and making that statement. She wouldn't have broke her phone if I didn't say that. You could maybe argue that she would have, but you can't prove it.
But nor can you.
Next question.
Rationally neutral.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, let's say, but do you believe that determination can lead to outcome, or would it be free will? Let's say an example, Hispanic, born into a middle class myself, and I am determined to become a lawyer. Would that determination lead me to become a lawyer? Or would my free will to become a lawyer help me get there?
I would say your determination to become a lawyer would come from learning about lawyers and what the benefits of being a lawyer were. And then, yes, having that will would have an effect on you becoming a lawyer in the future. Yes, we do affect our outcomes, but our ability to affect our outcomes is ultimately caused by something. So we aren't the ultimate cause of our actions, and thus lack true responsibility for our actions and the outcomes.
Yeah, you talked about how when you make choices, it can create neurological changes which then affect your future choices, and then you're calling this determinism. What about the idea that choices are compounded? So initial choices affect or change neurological structure because they're a result of original choices. Therefore, you still had free will because your initial choices, you made those.
You would have to prove that the initial choice, the first choice that caused other choices, was free of cause. That is, when you decided to cry for the first time as a baby because you were hungry, it wasn't the result of some chemical reaction going on in your brain or stomach. It was actually you just deciding to cry totally of your own free will, not being caused by something else.
Well, of that, how then would you define cause? Because, for example, you can say something about our phones, but it did not cause everyone in the room to go and break their phones. Therefore, you as an individual person are the physical cause.
People are unique. Different people with different genetics react to the same environment in different manners. And actually, environment, like, you could argue how much the same your environment is to the person next to you. Like, just that little difference in perspective could be an entirely different environment. The reason everyone didn't is, because people are different. People do develop differently and then react differently to situations.
Last question.
Could the environment not also be different just because you simply decide that it's to see it a different way? Like, somebody could be sitting here and they're like, this is so boring, and I'm sitting here really into this because I'm deciding,
You could
to
definitely-
be involved in.
Your opinions can definitely change throughout time, but each change is a result of a prior circumstance, like how well you were fed this morning and if you're
But I
hydrated.
chose to feed myself. I chose to eat.
But you learned how to also, and you learned that you should, and you learned what to eat
I was
from
hungry.
the environment. And you were hungry, which is just something that's caused by your body that you don't control consciously.
That'll be all for the questions. I believe you now have your chance to